All right, so we're going to do a review. We're going to talk about photosynthesis and cell respiration. You should have copied this slide. This slide is number 13 in my notebook, and it needs to be number 13 in your notebook. You'll see down here at the bottom there's a lecture video thing here, but it doesn't have a link yet because literally this video is going to be linked right there. So once I post this, then I'll link to it there so you can go and get it later. We're going to talk about photosynthesis and cell respiration today, but before we do that, let's go ahead and review very, very quickly. All right. So cell processes. We've talked about cell processes. We've talked about how things get into and out of the cell, and it takes multiple organelles and cell structures to do that. We've talked about how cells reproduce, which again takes multiple organelles to do that. We've passed, so cell organelles, cell structure, that little miniature unit was just about what does the nucleus do? What does the cell membrane do? What do these individual things do? And this week we've been talking about how those things work together to do what the cell needs to do, because none of them can work without the other ones doing their job. And so this is cell processes, this is again the unit. Today our focus is going to be right here. I can explain, and you can see it up on the board as well, I can explain how autotrophs get their energy and which organelle they use. Autotrophs. I can explain how heterotrophs get their energy and which organelle they use. So it's the same thing. I can explain how autotrophs and heterotrophs both get their energy and which organelle does that. Now, chances are you already have a pretty good understanding of this already. We talked about this when we talked about the characteristics of life and what heterotrophs are and autotrophs are. We've talked about which organelles a little bit. Today we're going to talk about the specific process that they go through. Who remembers the process that autotrophs go through to get their energy? You can just say it. Photosynthesis. I had a friend that used to say photosynthesis. It is photosynthesis. And what about heterotrophs? What happens, what process do they go through? Do y'all know? That's someone that you're... No? So we eat to get our energy as an organism, but our cells on the cellular level. Remember, we're not talking about organisms as far as what the process is. The process goes on in each one of our cells as heterotrophs. Every one of our cells go through this process. It's called cell respiration. That's the other box that we're going to be taking notes on today. So you've probably not heard of that before. Photosynthesis, I think y'all talked about it in elementary school. Cell respiration, not so much. Go ahead and tilt your screens in. And yesterday we talked about cancer. Again, cancer has to get energy from the body. So our cancer is not going to be going through photosynthesis. It's going to be going through cell respiration. That's how it gets its energy. All right, talked about cell membrane. What is passive transport? Doesn't require energy. Active transport? Requires energy. What's an example of passive transport? You say it. Yes, okay, that was the thing that I helped you understand. But I mean, in the cell, what is an example? It's on the next slide, if you remember. The example of passive transport. Yeah.
Oh, the Febreze.
Diffusion. Yeah, diffusion. It's the Febreze, the Febreze or the perfume in the jar with the sticks on it. That is diffusion. Or the food coloring. I think you guys saw that as well. Didn't we do that in this class? I think I did red and blue for this class. Yep. You didn't finish it? We didn't finish it? Okay. And then we talked about if things are too large to go into or out of the cell has to help it into the cell. That process is called into the cell process, or endocytosis. And the process of coming out is exiting the cell process, or exocytosis, into or out of the cell. And so you should be able to answer these questions. How do small things enter the cell? How do medium things enter the cell? And how do large things enter the cell? You should be able to explain that using these first 9, these red words. You should be able to use these red words. Now, you may not understand every word perfectly, and that's okay, but these words are things that you should start understanding enough to where you can use it. So, for example, passive and active transport. For passive transport, this is going to continue to move across this membrane until what happens? What's the E word? Equilibrium. It's going to, and equilibrium means that what's happening? What's happened? Yeah, the concentration on both sides has happened. The pressure on both sides is the same. All right, so let's keep going. Yesterday we talked about cells making baby cells, right? Cells making cells. So far, I think this has been the favorite. Yesterday's lesson was their favorite from what I've asked everybody. We'll see what your class thinks as well. I think did y'all like the videos?
Yes.
Y'all like the videos? A lot of people like the videos. There's actually a really good video on these two things on passive and active transport, and I pasted it right here. Amoeba review video and nucleus review video. So you can click on either of those videos that may help you. The amoeba video is a little bit longer. The nucleus media explanation is a pretty short video. All right, let's get back. Mitosis, meiosis. We talked about how it affects tumors, which I think y'all found interesting. I know I did. We talked about the differences, and you should be able to tell me the differences using some of these vocab: somatic, reproductive, daughter, chromosomes, parent, DNA. If your little sister comes and says, "Hey, big brother, big sister, where is a part of your body that goes through mitosis?" What would you say? Mitosis. And then today, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through how cells obtain energy. All right, ways that they obtain energy. This is the last thing. Tomorrow we'll be reviewing, and then the next day we'll be taking a quiz. So photosynthesis. Go ahead and take a look at this. Take a second. The pictures at the bottom is what I'm wanting you to look at. The GIFs at the bottom. All right, so if you'll notice something, what is coming into the cell on the right? You've got this hexagon, this G. What do you think that is? Huh? Glucose. This is glucose, also known as...
Is it glucose stuff that you eat?
Sugar. Yeah, sugar. Things that end in OSE, like glucose or lactose or fructose. A lot of sugars are named OSE. Most of the time, if it ends in an OSE, it is a type of sugar. So glucose is coming in. Oxygen is going to be coming in. And there's three things that are coming out, and we're about to talk about those in just a second. But I want you to see this GIF. As I draw this on the board, I think this is going to make sense. I'll unfreeze it so you can see. Also, over here, this is photosynthesis. There's some things coming into the cell, and then some things are being made. What is this process called over here? On the left? What is this? Photosynthesis. This process is called what? Cell respiration. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to draw some stuff on the board. We'll try it from there.